just the way we do things around Hotel HMW. Go check out the website, HoustonMediaWatch.com. Got the crew in the house today. Alicia Stewart, my beautiful niece, is behind the cameras working, and Richard Walker is over in the studio, just all over the darn place, making things happen, doing the solo thing on the control board. If you haven't ever tried it, you should try it at home sometime. Just try operating a live TV show one deep and see how it works out for you. Yeah, we'll work it out. All right, folks, look. Boy, I could spend a whole hour talking about Manny's comment in regard to J.J. Watt, well, question with J.J. Watt in regard to him mentoring the Javian Clowney, because I think the other part of that is Manny is, probably not the biggest Clowney guy to phrase the question in that manner, and maybe not. Maybe he's just being objective and looking at all sides of it. But you would think, if you're going to spend a number one draft pick on a guy, then the number one overall in particular, that's not that. That should be a self-motivated guy. Yeah, in a perfect world, you want everything about the first overall draft pick to be perfect, but it's not. It's not going to be that way. You got a guy who just got paid in Carolina, who went, fifth round. It was a first-round type talent. He's making hay. He's making plays. He's getting his money. But sometimes there are things about these players.
Greg Hardy you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm talking about Hardy.
Yeah.
There are guys that people not people, but teams are going to evaluate and not be willing to risk of number one pick, let alone a first overall pick. Time to talk Johnny Manziel. I took some considerable heat on Facebook this week. Then I took some ridiculous stuff on Facebook this week from some, dare I say, idiots. Okay, I just some of Adrian Tubbs folks, sisters, uncles, cousins, they just got after me a little bit. And I'll tell you what, I'm just not having it. You know what I mean? Because if you are not a Manziel guy, or you're not a Clowney guy, you're not a Bortles guy, that's fine. Or if you are in favor of one of those guys, that's fine. But you have to be realistic. And just because you're on a Facebook group page, it doesn't give adults the right to act like children. You still should act kind of like you act when you go to work or when you go to church and you sit in front of your pastor. You can talk sports without acting a darn fool. I've been clear. I don't think that Rick Smith / Bill O'Brien will be foolish enough, now that may be the term that's making folks angry with me, will be foolish enough, because I think it would be foolish, to draft Johnny Manziel number one overall. When it's not a question of we're not talking about can he play in the league, can he survive in the league? That's not the question. We're saying number one overall in the NFL draft. There are issues with, and I hate to go, just be redundant and all this stuff, but you got issues with measurables. You got, I'm going to say some substandard football issues, because all people see is, wow, he got out of the pocket. He made an awesome play, a fantastic play. Then you go back and look at the film. Well, he didn't go through all his progressions, because had he went through his progressions properly, well, the second guy was open. He really didn't have to leave the pocket. If I asked you, John Harris, what type of offensive line did Johnny Manziel play behind at Texas A&M? What would your educated opinion be?
Well, he played behind the number 2 overall pick and the guy that should probably be top 5, top 7.
Okay, so why was he always out of the pocket?
Well, I mean, don't get mad at me. I was on the Facebook group page.
No.
I wasn't posting on Facebook.
You're a guy that people all the way from Seattle, at Guru Stu on Twitter, were tweeting saying, I love John, can't wait to hear John on the show today. So I had to go to you. And that was a setup, but I needed that because your respected opinion. Why was he always out of the pocket with that offensive line? You know what I mean? That's who he is.
Right. I think he is comfortable trying to make something happen out of the pocket.
Right. There's no problem with that.
I think he's very comfortable being out of the pocket and doing his thing. I think what we saw in the second year of Johnny Manziel was there was a little bit more desire, is maybe the wrong word, to stay in the pocket. He wanted to stay in the pocket a little bit more as a sophomore. I think they had to really work with him in the spring to get him to understand throwing from the pocket was a good thing. But I think for him, it was, this is how I know to make plays. And I go back to this. During the week, you work on different – if you're trying to break a bad habit, and I used to say this to my players too, you're trying to break a bad habit, you've been working on whatever it is, throwing a ball, shooting, whatever. And I remember for me, for a long time ago, I was shooting free throws. Mm-hmm. And I remember there was a coach working with me, and I was trying to shoot free throws. I was using a particular form, and all that kind of stuff, and I was working on it. And free throws is a little bit easier because the game stops and all that. But he said, I want you to work on this until it becomes – people always say practice makes perfect. No, practice makes permanent. You got to get to a point where you work on things and work on things and work on things until it becomes permanent. He said, but when you're in the game, just put the ball in the net. Just put it in. I don't care how. I don't care if you toss behind your back, over your head, whatever. You use whatever form you got to do to get it up there. You work on the right form, but you use whatever form to get it up there. And I think that's the way Johnny approached the quarterback spot at A&M. It was, I'm going to do whatever I can to give A&M the best offense possible. And if that means I got to get out of the pocket, I get out of the pocket. It's where I'm more comfortable. I'll make a play out of the pocket. I think in that time they tried to work on him with his pocket presence. But yet when he got in the game, he was going to do whatever he felt he had to move that offense. So from that standpoint, why was he always out of pocket? I don't know if the first year I felt like you're right. I think he was always out of pocket. This past year I saw there were a few times where he would take the ball down, look to scramble, set back up, and then,
Yeah, but what is his profile?
Yeah, but that's the whole thing. What we as media members and what we talk about on Twitter and whatever else, I mean, in all honesty, it doesn't mean a whole lot. It's what a team looks at his profile and says, can we coach that? Can we coach that kid? Now, keep in mind, because coaches are as proud as any group you're going to find. Gary Kubiak thought he could change David Carr. Coaches all think, I can coach him up to do it.
But why would Bill O'Brien, who, we talked about this before the show, I've done nothing more than shake his hand at press conferences and say, welcome to Houston, look forward to covering you. Don't know the guy. You know him personally. Mm-hmm. I haven't really pried into you for, hey, John, tell me this about Bill, have I? I mean, be honest.
No.
Okay. So I ask you this question. This is a guy you know well. Why would that guy, with all the salary cap stuff that he has to deal with, why would that guy want to put that on his plate?
Agreed. I mean, that's
give me.
That's a stress that a coach.
Johnny Manziel on my plate. Really?
That's a stress that a coach.
I'm only talking about the football play. I'm not talking about anything else.
I understand. Yeah. I understand. And that's the question. That's a question for Bill. That's a question I think that Bill O'Brien and Kevin Sumlin sit across from each other and go, okay, you coached him as a 19 to 21-year-old, 22-year-old, whatever it was. What are the challenges I'm going to have? What are the things you had to deal with? And go through that and find out what Kevin Sumlin has to say. I think that's the most important aspect of this. Kevin Sumlin, his quarterback coaches, et cetera. Because I think you're going to find, and the one thing that I want in my quarterback, and I'm not going to speak for you, but I would say that a lot of people would want, is I want that guy to have a chip on his shoulder to make him think that somebody's going to try and take his job every day. Tom Brady, for as good as Tom Brady is, feels like there is somebody that is always going to come along and take his job because he was a 6th-round draft pick. Mm-hmm. I want a quarterback that's got a chip on his shoulder. Blake Bortles was the 5th quarterback that UCF offered as a scholarship. Teddy Bridgewater was committed to Miami, didn't get the love from Miami, said, screw you, I'm going to Louisville. All 3 of them got a chip on their shoulder. How can you harness that into something else? And Bill O'Brien has to understand if I do go with Johnny Manziel, I'm dealing with this issue, which I may not deal with Teddy Bridgewater or Blake Bortles with those issues. So he's got to balance that out.
Which of these 3 guys, Blake Bortles, Teddy Bridgewater, and Johnny Manziel, can start the season at quarterback for the Texans, come out, throw 4 picks in the first 2 games, lose those games, and go on and recover from that and be a good quarterback for this football team as a rookie?
Yeah.
Which of these 3 guys has the mental makeup, you know what I'm saying, Angelo, to most likely, to be able to move forward with that? I just think it's too easy to take the Jadeveon Clowney, because whether you love Johnny Manziel or not, you can take Clowney, and really and truly, no one can knock you. I mean, no one can knock you from taking Clowney. If you take Manziel and he flops, you are really putting yourself out there, because this is a guy that has so many problems as far as just his measurables. Now the deal is, he has enough arm strength. Johnny Manziel's arm strength is nothing. It's not anything special.
But it's not substandard like people will sell you on.
But it's nothing special. It's not. It's not.
But is it on par? Is it on par with Russell Wilson?
I don't know that Johnny Manziel's arm is strong as Russell Wilson. I don't know.
But I don't think that's. I don't really think that's. I think it's adequate.
I just think that's. I think the Russell Wilson Johnny Manziel comparison is about as ludicrous as all of every athletic kid that ever came out after Vince Young being compared to Vince Young.
Well, I'm just saying from a height standpoint, because that's the only comparison. And
but I just don't think they. I think height is the only thing they have in common.
That's what I'm saying. Everything else is off the table. But I'm just saying, because people will bring up arm strength, because a shorter quarterback's going to have to take different lanes to throw the football.
Yes.
And can Johnny do that? I think he can. Yes. But I think Russell's got a stronger arm. Yeah. But that's the only comparison I would make. But the comparison is apt, because you've got to be able to find those lanes to be able to make those type throws. And that's, I think, the only comparison you can make.
I think we'll agree that Russell Wilson and your colleague on your website, Lance Zierlein, made a great point on his show the other day. I think it was the day you were on, when he talked about the fact that the way Russell digests, and I'm paraphrasing his comments, the way he digests the game and who he is. And I'll tell you what, we right up on it. We'll pick this back up on the other side of the break. All right, folks? HMW Sports Talk Live. Hanging there. We'll be right back.